Dealing with laziness in the workplace is a challenge that some managers and leaders face. It's one of those topics that everyone has an opinion on, yet it's really addressed with the depth and nuance it deserves. Laziness, or what appears to be laziness, can be stemmed from a variety of factors, and understanding these can be a key to turning things around. In today's video, we're going to explore strategies you can use to combat laziness within your team or environment. We'll look at both ways you can change your approach as a manager and the steps you can take to help other employees become more engaged and motivated. By the end of this video, you'll have a toolbox full of practical strategies to ensure that your team is operating at its highest potential. Let's start by addressing a fundamental truth. As a manager, the responsibilities for your team's performance ultimately falls on your shoulders. You should be accountable. If you notice a lack of enthusiasm or drive in your team, the first step is to look inward. Ask yourself, are you providing your team with the direction and the resources they need? Are you setting clear expectations? Sometimes what we perceive as laziness isn't actually laziness at all. It's a result of lack of clarity or motivation. And this is where you as a leader can make a significant impact. One of the most common mistakes managers make is not assigning enough work. If you're only assigning 20 hours of work and expecting your team members to really find an additional 20 hours worth of tasks on their own, you're likely setting them up for failure. It's unfair to assume that employees will automatically identify and tackle those additional tasks without direction. When you hear complaints about the team members just doing the minimum, it's important to recognize that the minimum was set by you. The baseline expectation is too low. The issue may not be laziness, but rather a lack of clear direction by leadership. It's like the scene from Office Space, where Jennifer Aniston's character is criticized for only wearing the minimum amount of flair, 15 badges, and he's expecting more, like 37, like the other guy. Her boss is frustrated that she's not wearing more. Mr. Judd is like the guy that wrote the whole thing, right? And so she's basically upset because he's asking for 15 things of flair, but yet he's expecting 16, 17, or maybe the 37. Like some of the other employees, this leads to friction, conflict, and eventually resignation. The lesson here is simple. If you want more than the minimum, you need to articulate that up front. If you want your team to exceed expectations, you must first define what those expectations are. Also, while doing this, realize that not everyone on your team requires the same level of direction. Some employees are self-starters. They'll take the initiative, find additional tasks, and push themselves to excel without needing much guidance at all. Others, however, might need more direction. This doesn't mean that they're lazy or bad workers. No, not at all. It simply means that they need more structure. They might be unsure of what you want, or they might lack the confidence to take that initiative. As managers, it's your job to identify these differences and tailor your approach accordingly. Being clear about expectations and the results you want is so crucial. But even more important is explaining how these results impact the business as a whole. See, when employees understand how their work fits into the larger picture, they're more likely to feel motivated. In today's corporate environment, many roles have become so specialized or siloed that it can be very difficult for employees to see how their efforts really matter. This disconnect can lead to disengagement and what appears to be laziness. However, when you take the time to explain how their contributions are vital to the success of the company, you help them see the value in their own work. This can be reignited. However, when you take the time to explain how their contributions are vital to the success of the company. You help them see the value in their work, which can reignite their passion and drive. Of course, setting expectations and providing direction is only half the battle. The other half of the battle is enforcing consequences when those expectations aren't met. This can be one of the hardest aspects of management, but it's absolutely necessary. If an employee consistently fails to meet their responsibility, it's your duty to address it. Allowing poor performance to go unchecked sends a message to the rest of the team. This can be one of the hardest aspects of management, but it's absolutely necessary. If an employee consistently fails to meet their responsibility, it's your duty to address it. Allowing poor performance to go unchecked sends a message to the rest of the team that the standards you've set aren't really that important, are they? This can quickly lead to a demoralization of the team. Not to mention, it might even turn into a toxic work environment. Enforcing consequences doesn't always mean being harsh or punitive. No. It's about maintaining a standard that everyone can respect. If you address issues early and consistently, you'll find that your team will start to hold themselves accountable. They'll understand that the standards you've set are non-negotiable, and they'll be more likely to rise to the occasion. Of course, there may come a time where you have exhausted all options available, where the only thing left to do is to let somebody go, and that is understandable, right? You can lead a horse to water sometimes, but you cannot make it drink. Some people just will not meet you halfway, but always put in the effort to show that you are willing to help them improve. Don't give up on this fight. Now let's shift our focus to how you can help an employee help themselves. The first step is to ensure they have the proper training. This might seem obvious, but it's often overlooked. If an employee doesn't fully understand their role or the tools they need to use, they're unlikely to perform well. However, while training is important, it shouldn't be the only solution. You just can't keep sending someone back to training each and every time that there's a problem. Training should equip them with the skills they need to succeed, but it won't solve the issues like lack of motivation or engagement. The next step is getting the employee to commit to their own role and responsibilities. This can sometimes be achieved through a simple conversation. Ask them how they're feeling about their work, whether they're facing any challenges, and what you can do to help. Often employees just need to feel heard and supported. When they know that you're invested in their success, they're more likely to commit to their own role and work harder. If these initial steps don't yield results, it might be time to put them on a plan. This could be an improvement plan or a structured timeline, like a 10-week plan with clear, measurable goals. A plan gives the employee a roadmap toward success. It removes ambiguity and provides them with concrete steps that they can take to improve their performance. This not only helps them stay on track, but it also shows them that they're serious about their own development and that there are consequences for not meeting the expectations. Sometimes an employee might have a simple need or a change of scenery. If someone isn't thriving in their current role, consider moving them to a different department or changing their responsibilities. For instance, if an employee isn't excelling in sales, perhaps they would do better in an operations role. A fresh start in a new area can sometimes be all it takes to reignite their motivation. However, it's important to handle this delicately. Don't just spring a new role on them without warning. Have a conversation first. Let them know you've noticed that they're struggling and offer the change as an opportunity rather than a punishment. This gives them a chance to either turn things around in their current role or embrace the new opportunity. In conclusion, dealing with laziness in the workplace is a multifaceted challenge. It requires you to look inward and assess your own management style while also taking steps to help your employees succeed. By setting clear expectations, providing the necessary support, and enforcing consequences, you can create an environment where laziness is less likely to take root. Remember, every employee is different, and what works for one person might not work for another. Your job as a leader is to identify those differences and adapt your approach accordingly. So you have to deal with that laziness in your team. Remember, every employee is different, and what works for one person might not work for another. Your job as a leader is to identify those differences and adapt your approach accordingly. So how have you dealt with laziness in your team? What strategies have worked for you? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, make sure you like, subscribe, and check out my profile for more content on leadership, mindset, and business strategies. Together, we can work towards elevating humanity, one post at a time.